Hello, John Keegan is my name, and I am an alcoholic. And this is an introduction and a tribute to a great friend of mine who sadly passed away on the 29th of March 2015. Mr. Tom O Sullivan. Now, he did this DVD about 7 years ago, I believe, something like that. A great member of our fellowship, and a great member of the human race. I feel I know his family, even though we never met, because he talked about them so much to me. We had so many conversations. We walked side by side for the last 30 years, and we were never both down on the same day. So we had 3 legs between us, and we could walk okay. He adored his mum. He absolutely adored his mum. I mean, he's done hundreds of talks, hundreds and hundreds of talks. And I have never heard him do one without mentioning his mother. Never. And I would love to think that Tom is up there with his mum now. And I'm a very spiritual person, so I find it very easy to believe that. I really do believe it. Tom was also a very spiritual man, very strong spiritual man. He was physically strong, mentally strong. He was a proper manly sort of man. Macho, but with a kind heart, a really kind heart. He started a charity, I don't know, 26, 27 years ago, called B.A.T, B.A.T, which stands for Battling Addictions Together. And he's been the chairman ever since. And I've been vice chairman. Now, by rights, I should step into his shoes and be chairman. But I'm not going to do that. I don't think I could fill his shoes to start with, and I got so much respect for him that as long as I live, I'll always say that Tom O Sullivan's the chairman and I'm the vice chairman. And I won't go into detail unless the people know. And with that charity, and he used to work in soup kitchens, handing out soup, giving clothes to people less fortunate. He was all giving, no taking. He liked giving, and he didn't like taking at all. He didn't like being given anything. He didn't want it. He was a giver, not a taker. A really decent man. And he set up this Christmas dinner for people who lived alone and were less fortunate again. And we had 4 or 5 turkeys, loads of beef, ham, the soup before, the sweets after. There was cakes, biscuits, you name it. The real Mackay, the full Monty. And there was always a load left over, always. And that was given to people who wasn't very well off, packed up in packages and given to them. And it made so much difference to their people's lives. The looks on their faces was priceless. I couldn't calculate. I wouldn't even begin to try to calculate how many people as Tom has helped over the years. But one thing I do know for sure, it's a massive figure. And I can say in all honesty sitting here, that I know he saved quite a few people's lives. Now I think if you save one life in your lifetime, that is some achievement. That justifies your life on this earth, one person. If you pull a man out of a river, or a person, sorry, out of a river, or a burning car or something like that, to me you're a hero, absolutely. But when you save several people's lives, you're gifted. You're gifted. He was a great inspiration to me and to an awful lot of people I know. And his DVD, I got great feedback from as far afield as Africa, Russia, Australia, Thailand, all over America, and the prisons in the Channel Islands, and hopefully very soon in the prisons in the UK. I feel I know the man probably better than anybody else in this country. We've so much in common. We spend so much time together. We liked the same music, and we loved the old Irish plays and the old Irish comedy. But we also loved our adopted country. It gave us a good living, a good life. And we had some great, great, great laughs over the years. Great, great laughs. I'm not going to go into detail, but there was never anything nasty or unpleasant or offensive. Just good, good laughs. I know the man so well that I can say in all honesty, on everything sacred, that I know he doesn't want his family to suffer. He does not want them to mourn. I think a few prayers here and there and celebrating his life is exactly what he wants. That I know for a fact. And that goes for everybody around him. Now, up to last Sunday, I cannot remember the last time I cried before last Sunday when I got the news. I cried a good bit, and I took my dogs out for a walk around the fields. And I walked round until I actually stopped crying. And believe me, that was probably the longest walk my dogs have had for years and years. For some reason I had a good cry yesterday, which was Good Friday. And I'm not going to cry now. I feel a bit emotional. I feel a bit sad, naturally. But I'd like to go along with his wishes. And also, I'm getting some solace and comfort from the fact that he's only gone on ahead. That's all. He's gone on ahead. We're all going there. And I'm not far off the departure lounge myself. I've had my 70 years and 10. And I just hope to God I can do it with the same dignity that Tom did, our Tom. Who knows what's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but that's one thing I do know for sure. He doesn't want people to remember in any sadness. He wants you to be happy. To be happy. And we've got him immortalised now. If you want to, anytime you want, you can put this DVD on and see him as we knew him. Sitting there talking. Alive. And every time I think he's alive. I've dreamt about Tom 3 nights in the last 6 nights, and he was alive in every one of them. And he's in my heart, and he'll always be alive. To me, he'll always be alive, because every memory I have is of Tom being alive, and of Tom passing on has only been 6 days. And hopefully I won't dwell on that side of it. And I really wish his family would honour his wishes and not suffer. And that's a message from Tom. I'm just passing it on. And I wish them all the best. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for having me here this evening. It's good to be here. It's good to be here sober. As I said, I'm an alcoholic, and I haven't had a drink now for 16 years. That's nothing other than a miracle, for me anyway. I sometimes feel very guilty about the fact that I am here at all, because the truth of the fact is I have absolutely no excuse. I come from Southern Ireland, County Kerry. Came from a good home, good family, you know, sort of good mum, good dad. There was 9 of us in the family, 4 boys and 4 girls. I was third in line to the throne. But it, you know, sort of was, when I was in my teens, my early teens, I had this yearning for to travel, and I wanted to come to London, which I did, and I came to London. I didn't have to come. I had plenty of work at home, but I wanted to get away from home, wanted to come to the bright lights. I came to London, and I was in working in the building game as a carpenter, and to start with, it was a big disappointment to me. It wasn't what I expected. I was very homesick for a long time, but I stuck it out. I think it was my pride that made me stick it out for a start. I couldn't, you know, go home because you'd get the pee taken out of you. So I didn't go home for, I think, for 6 months before I went back for the first holiday, and came back again. And when I came back, I really fell into it. You know, I get to like it. And I was in with a good crowd in the building game. We were, you know, sort of with good work, you know, earning big money, and living, I suppose, a very fast life. You know, working hard. You know, drinking hard as well, and you know, sort of great weekends. And drink was not a problem. You know, I could have, at the time I was able to drink as much as I wanted to, and you know, it didn't seem to have any effect on me. You know, no matter how late I stayed out at night or how much I drank, I was up for work as it dawn in the morning. And things went on like that for years. But in 1972, there was a disaster in my family. My youngest brother, he was 14, him along with my cousin, who was also 14, they both got drowned in a boating accident. And at that time, I was going out with a young lady from Cork, and we were thinking about getting married. And the week before my brother's accident, we were home on holidays, and we came back on a Sunday, and this happened the following Sunday, and I had to go back again for my brother's funeral. And while I was at home, my fiancée, or my girlfriend at the time, she went out dancing while I was at home, and I took great offence to this, and I broke off the engagement and the relationship. And she was very upset about it. So was her family, and so was I, and so was my family as well. But I mean, it happened, and I think I did the right thing. And I continued on sort of the normal course of life, and I met a young lady from Dublin who was a student nurse, and started going out with her. And we eventually got married, and we bought a big house in Ealing, and big rundown house, and we spent a whole year, you know, working in the house, and turned it into our own little palace. And my wife had a series of miscarriages which left her unable to have a child, and she eventually left home and went back to Dublin to live with her parents. And for the first time in my life, I started drinking indoors. I was living in the house on my own, and I started drinking indoors. And by this time I was being told, it was being pointed out to me by friends and neighbours that, you know, that I had a problem with the drink. And I couldn't see this, you know, sort of, because I was still functioning, you know, still well able to go to work. And it was only a matter of time until you know, sort of the time came when I wasn't able to get up in the morning, when I wasn't able to go to work, and then, of course, I wasn't earning the money that I was used to earning. And by this time I'd met up with a lady from home, and she was very much against my drinking. And this particular Christmas she booked a holiday for both of us in the Canary Islands. And we went to the Canary Islands for 2 weeks, and we came back in early January. And on the plane coming back, I was just, you know, sort of, I was the only one that didn't have a suntan. I was as white as a sheet because I spent the whole 2 weeks drinking in hotels and bars. I never saw the beach once for the whole 2 weeks. And the day after coming back, I went into a terrible state of shakes and sweats and from the drink, and she became very worried about me and concerned, and she brought me down to Ealing Hospital, and I was examined by one of the doctors, and he told me that I had to come in hospital and be dried out, that I was in a terrible state from alcohol. And at first I refused, but I eventually gave in, and he told me there was a bed available Thursday morning. And I reneged up until Wednesday night, and Wednesday night I gave in, and I said to my girlfriend that yes, I would come in. That I'd come in one condition only, and she said, what's the condition? And I said that nobody would know that I'm in there. And she said, if anybody ever finds out, she said, it certainly won't be me that will tell them. And I came in Thursday morning, and to my total shock, there were 17 patients on the ward, and I knew every one of the 17 patients. I knew every one of them from the outside, you know, from the pubs and clubs. And I never thought for 1 minute that any one of them had, you know, sort of a serious drink problem. That's how blind and how oblivious I was to the illness. And naturally my cover was well blown now, because all their visitors, their families coming in to visit them. And I was in hospital for 2 weeks, and apparently I had a very bad detox. I went through horrendous withdrawals. You know, sort of I got a couple of alcoholic fits they thought to start with, but I was getting epileptic fits. Anyway, I left the hospital after the 2 weeks. My 2 weeks detox was up, and I swore to myself that I would never touch a drink again, and I meant it. But I went out there, and I think I didn't have a drink for about 2 or 3 months, something like that. And by this time I was starting to feel good again. I was feeling strong again. I was eating properly again. And I decided, oh, you know, I'll be okay now. I can have a few drinks. And it was only a matter of time, you know, sort of I was back to square one again, you know, sort of drinking, you know, sort of going to the pub straight after work in the evening, you know, staying in the pub till closing time, coming home, drinking in the morning before I went, you know, sort of left for work. I had to have a drink in the morning at this stage, you know, to stop myself, you know, shaking and give myself the courage to face out there. And I was brought in for, you know, for a second detox, and same thing again, sort of swore to myself that I wouldn't touch it anymore, back out there drinking again. Third detox and a fourth detox. But my fourth detox, I was in hospital all over a period of Christmas. And I do remember, you know, sort of that I had now become very aware, you know, of how far down I had gone. You know, sort of, I was also very ashamed of, you know, the way I was. But I was in a desperate situation. I was not able to, you know, sort of to stop this blasted drinking. And it was good being in the hospital over the Christmas period, because there was only a few patients on the ward, and things were very quiet, and I was able to spend lots of time talking with the nurses and the doctors. But I do remember one morning that I woke up, and it was very strange. It was a very, very strange feeling. I don't know what it was, whether I'd been in a very deep dream or what, I don't know. But I woke up, and the best way I've ever been able to describe it to anybody is that I woke up and I was dead. because wherever I was, I certainly wasn't in this planet. I was somewhere else. But I eventually things started coming around, and I realised, where I was, and I panicked, and I called for one of the nurses, and one of the nurses came, and she sat at the end of the bed, and she said, "Tom, are you okay?" And I said to her, I said, "Nola," I said, "I will never, ever again drink." And she got up from the end of the bed, and she came up and sat close to me, and she said, "Tom," she said, "I told you that this would pass." And she went out and she got a doctor, and she brought the doctor in, and the doctor examined me, and he said, "Are you okay, Tom?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Yeah." So I don't know what happened to me that morning. Something did happen to me anyway, whatever it is. A lot of people that I've shared this with have told me that I had some kind of a spiritual awakening or something. But whatever it was, it certainly lifted the compulsion to drink, because that was 16 years ago. And I've got to be very truthful and very honest about this. A drink has never, ever, ever once entered into my head since. And that worries me, and it worries me a great deal sometimes, because I know that the day will come when I will be tempted to pick up a drink. What will be the reason, I don't know, But usually we're told this, it is anger and resentment and these things, that, cause people to pick up. But I know that it's the ism and the alcoholism that, gets anybody to pick up. I've had lots of ups and downs in my life, since I've stopped drinking. I suppose the biggest downer that I've had was, Mum's death, but I cope with that quite well. But I knew that, there was, it would be the biggest insult that I could pay to my mum, would be to pick up a drink at her funeral. Because Mum had become a great friend of mine, before she died. I'd spent 5 great years with her before she died. And she was the mother that I never knew that I had. She was a very strong woman, very powerful woman, very broad-minded woman, And she understood my illness completely. And I know that she was very proud of me, for the effort that I was putting into, doing what I was doing to stay sober. And she knew that I was working, on a regular basis here in London with people in recovery from, alcohol and other drugs. And even though I'd been to, 1,000 AA meetings at this stage, the day Mum was dying, or the day before Mum died, it suddenly dawned on me in the hospital that I'd never ever said sorry to her, And I did pluck up the courage, and I said to her, I said, "Mum," I said, I've never ever said sorry to you for the pain, all the pain, the suffering that I caused you when I was drinking, But I said, "I'm saying sorry now." And even though she was, very, very ill, she gave me a big hug, and she said, "Tom," she said, "you're the best son in the world." And I suppose it made her crossing over easier for me, and I hope it made it easier for her, But as I said, it hasn't been easy. The first 12 months were difficult, because even though I was going to AA on a regular basis, which I was, told to by the hospital, I found AA very difficult, because I couldn't understand. A lot of people that would share at the meetings would share about the amount they had drank and the amount that they were drinking, and I could never understand how a lot of these people did have a drink problem. But today I know it's not how much you drink, it's how it affects you. Because in the latter end of my drinking, my body was rejecting alcohol right, left and centre. But it was my mind was craving it. And I've learned an awful lot, since I came into these rooms. And one of the best lessons that I have learned anyway, to my knowledge anyway, is that, respecting my fellow human beings. There was for years, when I was doing well, and I was doing well for years, that I had little or no time for somebody that was down and out, But today I know that, everybody that's, either in a park bench or in a shop doorway or somewhere like that, they all have a story, something put them there, What brought me into these rooms or put me into these rooms, I don't know, but I suppose I had, my own ups and downs. Apart from my brother getting drowned, I had a brother who died of cancer at the age of 18, and I had another brother who died at the age of 39. And my wife had a series of miscarriages, and I suppose all these things, maybe contributed, to me abusing alcohol. But today, I have a great life today. I have a life today that I never knew before. You know, sort of I wake up every morning, you know, with a clear head. I wake up every morning in my own bed. You know, when I was drinking, I never knew where I used to wake up, you know. And I had no, today I know that I had no real friends when I was drinking. You know, sort of today, I can look upon the people I call friends today, I can look upon each and every one of them as genuine friends. You know, sort of, my friends when I were drinking, they were just, you know, they were drinking acquaintances, that's all they were. Because I know the last time I was in hospital, for the 2 weeks I was in over Christmas, I never had one visitor. So, I think that speaks for itself. But today, you know, I mean, I can, you know, my friends, I can pick up the phone to them anytime, morning, noon and night, and, you know, sort of they're there, they'll be there for me. And I spend today, you know, sort of every bit of spare time I have, I spend it, you know, sort of in the company of people in recovery from alcohol or other drugs, other substances. And I get great pleasure from, you know, the work we do in the hospital. I get great pleasure from helping other people, because I know that in helping these people that I'm also helping myself. And, you know, sort of, because I know that I am no different from any of these people. I'm only an arm's length away from a drink as well. And I know that if I, God forbid, should I pick up a drink today or in the near future, I know that I will not be able to put it down. You know, and that's the last thing in the world that I want to do. You know, it would be too much to ask, you know, to say that I want to die sober. I do want to die sober, but if I do, the only way I can do it is, you know, sort of on a daily basis, one day at a time. You know, I can't project. I can't say that, you know, that I won't drink for another 12 months, or, you know, I have to do it on a daily basis. That's the only way that I can do it. And it's good being here today. It's good, you know, sort of seeing you all here, and it's good, you know, sort of being able to share with you. And I hope that some one of you, particularly any of the newcomers, because the newcomers are the important people here. Because I know when I was a newcomer, you know, when I was in for my first detox, it was a strange world. You know, sort of I couldn't come to terms with it at all in the start. You know, sort of it's the shock, you know, of the reality of it. You know that you're in hospital. You know that you have an addiction. You know, it's a terrible shock. And there's a lot of shame in the early stages. There's an awful lot of shame attached to it, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, a lot of us, you know, sort of have difficulty in coming to, you know, sort of in admitting to ourselves and to others that we have a problem. But it's only when you admit it to yourself and to others that you have a problem that you ever really be able to do anything about it. And for years, I tried to hide it, you know, from my family, you know, that I was in hospital, you know, because I don't think they knew that I was in drying out until I think about my third detox. But that's what I thought. But today I know that my family knew from the word go, you know, that I was in hospital. They knew that for years they knew that I had a problem, you know. But I was the one that was in denial, you know. My mum, you know, for years, you know, just give me, you know, sort of subtle nudges and hints, you know, but she never really put her foot down. But the last time that I went home, you know, when I was drinking alcoholically, I was feeling bad, feeling very down, and I decided the best way to get out of this was to go home to Ireland for a couple of weeks and, you know, spend a couple of weeks with Mum. And I did go home and spend 2 weeks at home, but I hardly saw Mum while I was there. I spent the whole time in the bars at home and the hotels drinking. And the morning I was coming away, I said to her, you know, I said, Mum, I'm off now. And I went to give her a hug. And she put her 2 hands up and she said, Tommy, she said, no. She said, go away to wherever it is you're going this time. She said, lately, she said, I never know where you are anyway. And she said, don't come home anymore if you're drinking. And she said, don't come home for my funeral if you're drinking you. And she turned on her heel and walked back in the house and she locked the door. And I came back to London, and of course I had another excuse for drinking, but that's the damage, you know, that I did. And I know that a lot of you here today, a lot of newcomers, you know, have done the same thing. You know, sort of, there's like, you know, broken marriages, broken homes, you know, sort of, you name it, you know, sort of, you know, sort of, it happens to all of us. You know, you're in the right place now, and now is the time to do something about it. You know, and I hope by listening to me that will, you know, help you to do something. So that's all I can say, folks. Thanks a lot.
Yes. How long after leaving detox did you go back to work? Did you start work? Start with you, Tom.
I was in detox 4 times, and the first 3 times I was in detox, I was advised by the doctors and the nurses, you know, to stay off work for quite a while, you know, to make sure that I was, you know, ready, you know, to go back to work properly. But I didn't. I went back to work straight away because I had little or no money, and but I had sworn that I wouldn't drink again. But you know, sort of as soon as I got money back in my pocket, I was back drinking again. After my 4th detox, I stayed off work for 12 months, and I found it very difficult, you know, being out of work for 12 months because I had little or no money and getting very little dole. But I found out that after a few months, you know, sort of it was getting easier to stay, you know, sort of away from work, and I stuck it out for 12 months. And after the 12 months was up, I went back to work, and, you know, sort of gradually, a couple of days a week, and I find this paid off for me anyway.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you. How long did you feel it took to get the trust of your partner or your family or friends back? Over to you, Tom.
Right. Well, I had been detoxed 3 times before my family knew. Well, at least I thought my family didn't know, but today I know that they did know. But they didn't know what the detox unit, what a detox meant or what a detox unit was. But between my 3rd and 4th detox, I decided to go home to Ireland. And I went home and I just wound up drinking for the 2 weeks I was there. And things went very bad at home, and I came back and I wound up in detox for the 4th time. But after coming out of detox the 4th time, I didn't go home for 5 years. And 5 years was a long time. It was a big gap out of my life. But I felt, you know, that it took me that length of time to make sure that I was ready to go home and to make sure that I was, you know, finished with my detoxes. And when I did tell my family the whole story about my, you know, sort of, you know, trips into hospital, they became very supportive, and I think they wound up very proud of me. And today, I think from the word go, after going home that time, that, you know, that from the word go, they've trusted me 100%, and they're very supportive of me and my efforts, and it hasn't been easy. And there was for a while I was trying to make amends to my family, trying to make it up to them, you know, for all the pain and suffering and things that I'd caused them. But today I know that I never had to do that. You know, all they wanted for me was to get well, and they're very happy for me to see me the way I am today.
Thanks very much, Tom. And now we come to question number 3. On leaving detox, did you carry on going in pubs because all your friends were there and your whole life was there? And did you carry on going in pubs and drinking orange juice or Caliber or something like that? Or did you know that it was on you and it was a dangerous place to be? We'll start again with Tom, please. Are you ready, Tom?
When I came out of hospital the first 3 times, after a few weeks or a few months, I started going back to pubs, you know, drinking lemonade and orange and things like that, and associating with all my old cronies. And it was only a matter of time until, you know, sort of I was back to, you know, sort of my old way of life, drinking, and, you know, sort of. But my 4th detox was my main detox, because I know today that I was at rock bottom, you know, and I knew that my life was was very rapidly ebbing away, and I was advised to stay away from the company that I'd been keeping. I was advised strongly to stay away from pubs, I was advised strongly, you know, sort of not to, you know, sort of drink non-alcoholic lagers and things like that, because they were, you know, considered just crutches. But I decided, you know, to hit the pubs in the head completely, and to completely, you know, steer clear of all my old drinking partners. All this was very difficult, you know, because my drinking friends, you know, sort of had been friends for years. But what I didn't realise was that, you know, I mean, they were, you know, sort of, you know, heavy drinkers, but none of them were really alcoholic. I was the one who was the alcoholic. You know, when it came closing time at night, most of my friends could go home, you know, and get up for work in the morning. But when closing time came, I was only looking for some late night pub or some club, you know, to continue drinking till the early hours of the morning. And that was the difference between me and them. And you know, sort of a lot of my drinking friends in them days are still friends of mine today. And I've got to be honest and say this, you know, they have been very supportive to me over the years, and not one of them has ever offered me a drink. But, you know, it is said, like, you know, if you, you know, sort of, if you sit in the barber shop long enough, you'll wind up getting a haircut. And it's the same thing as if you go to the pubs. You know, it's only a matter of time if you'll pick up a drink again. I strongly advise anybody who's in the early stages of recovery, you know, to completely steer clear of the pubs. And I learned this the hard way, you know, and, you know, I know there's something that has to be done. Today, I find that I can go to pubs and, you know, sort of be under no pressure at all whatsoever. But I also find today that I have absolutely no interest in the pubs. I don't bother going to them at all, because the same buzz is not there. Whether it's because of the pub scene has changed, or whether it's my attitude towards the pubs. But today, or in the early stages of my recovery, I felt that for a long time before I was totally addicted to alcohol, that I was addicted to pubs. You know, I felt that if, you know, if I didn't go to the pub in the evening after work, that I was missing out on something. You know, and the truth of the fact is all we talked about in the pubs was work. And when we went, you know, sort of, when we went to work, all we talked about was the pubs. And today I feel that I'm missing nothing. You know? And I think I'd leave it to that.
Thank you very much, Tom. And on to question number 4. It's for the boys. It's how would you say there was one major factor in your sobriety, or was it a conglomeration of things, or was it a mixture of things, or would you say there was one main factor that you owe your sobriety to? Starting again with Tom, please.
I suppose there was lots of things came into this. It's a difficult one, really. You know, for years I wanted to kick the drinking. You know, and I tried, and you know, I've been a person that's been told to me that I never give myself credit for anything that I do. But if I was to give myself credit for anything that I have done, I think it would be to say is that I think that I have tried harder than anybody I know to stop drinking. But I was for years totally unable to. And I suppose in the last 12 months of my drinking, some of the major contributing factors towards my stopping drinking came about. And probably the biggest one was that the last time I went home, when I was drinking, my mother asked me to leave and not to come back anymore. And that, for me, was, you know, sort of, I suppose, definitely bordering on rock bottom. You know, I couldn't go much further down than to have to be told by my own mother, you know, to get out and not to come back anymore. But I came back to London and I drank in that, and but I was bitterly ashamed of it. And I wound up, a couple of months after going back, I wound up in hospital again, and I was in hospital for a 2 weeks period of Christmas, and, you know, sort of into early January. And I knew I was in death's door. And I suppose, to answer the question truthfully, you know, the major factor in my sobering up was probably my own cowardice. I was dying. I knew I was dying, and I was afraid to die. And I think for the first time in my life, I really started praying to God, you know, to give me the strength, you know, sort of to get free of this lasted illness that, you know, that I had. And I opened up my heart, you know, and my soul to the doctors and to the nurses, because it was Christmas period and you know, the ward was quiet and they were able to spend probably a lot more time with me. And I was also very aware, you know, of the, you know, sort of what I had arrived at. You know, I was a wreck, you know, from being sort of, I suppose not too many years ago, I was, you know, a half a decent person. But now I was a shivering wreck. And I was bitterly ashamed of myself, and not only was I ashamed of myself, but I was ashamed of, you know, what I had done to, you know, my family as well. And I prayed in earnest, and I handed my life over completely, you know, sort of, because I was my own life had become totally unmanageable, and I handed over to, you know, to other people, to the doctors and to the nurses, and I did, for the first time in my life, I genuinely started doing what they had told me. And it wasn't easy. I'd love to say that it was easy, but the first 12 months was hell on earth after coming out of hospital. You know, sort of not being able to go to pubs, not sort of being able to be in the company of the people that I'd sort of become great friends with over the years, not going to work, little money, you know, sort of, but I was working in a charity at the time, but I was getting free meals and things like that. But I think it was a combination of all these things, you know, that got me to where I am today. And I'm very grateful for it. But I do suppose when I came back from Ireland that time after my mum asked me to leave, I felt a lot of resentment. You know, sort of, I felt desperate resentment towards my family. But today, I know, you know, they had to do it. You know, it was the only thing they could do, because apart from my suffering, I was, you know, sort of, their suffering was great as well. And I know today that my mum, that she did it for my good, and probably for her own good as well, because, you know, sort of, I had the mum, I had her destroyed. I was her only son. I had 4 brothers, but my 4 brothers died, and I was her only surviving son, and she adored me. But I had destroyed, you know, sort of the friendship we had, the relationship we had, I destroyed it. And I would say, if the truth was known, it was probably, you know, sort of her actions of asking me to leave, because she asked me to leave for a reason. She thought it was probably the last chance of getting me to see, you know, to see what, you know, sort of I was doing with myself. And I think I owe my sobriety today to my mum. I leave it better.
Thanks very much, Tom. And now we come to the last question of this session, at least. How does your life compare now with your drinking life? And what advice would you give to anyone on leaving detox or dry out? We'll start again with Tom.
How does my life compare today? Well, there's absolutely no comparison, because in my drinking years, I drank from a very early age, from I suppose 17 or something like that, up until the age of 39, when I was brought in for my first detox. And my life then completely revolved around work and drink. And for years, sort of, I got a lot of pleasure from drinking. I enjoyed my drinking for years, up until the time, such time as it became a problem. And it went from being a problem to total alcoholism. And them years of my life, there were nothing, only doom and gloom and pain, suffering, heartache, shame, embarrassment. You know, I went from being a, you know, sort of a decent, well brought up human being to, you know, sort of a tramp. I was begging, thieving, stealing, lying, you name it, I did it for drink. And today my life is totally different today. I lead a very, I suppose, simple life today. I lead a very clean life. I lead a very normal life. I work full time as a, you know, sort of part-time builder. I do a lot of charity work in the hospital and other places. And today I spend as much time as I can in sort of helping people who are in the early stages of recovery from alcohol and other drugs. And it's one of the the aspects of my life today, one of the parts of my life today that I feel good about, that I feel proud that I'm able to do. Because for years, before I wound up, sort of with the problem with the drink, I had very little time for anybody who was less fortunate than myself, and I certainly had no time for people who were down and outs. But today I know that, sort of all these people are like myself, sort of probably something happened in their lives to put them where they are, the same as me. And I was very lucky to get all the help that I got, when I was put up my hands and admitted that I had a problem. People couldn't have been better to me. And it's great today, life is great today, sort of, I've go home to Ireland quite often for holidays. I have a great relationship with my family. I have 3 sisters, and the 3 of them have children, and their children, I have a great relationship with their children. Their children adore me. Sort of, it's lovely being called Uncle Tom. And no matter what happens in their lives, they keep me informed. They tell me about their progress at school and college and university, and it's it's a complete different ball game. And one of the things that I learned the hard way was that I was told and taught that the best way to stay sober was to share my sobriety with other people. And I've been doing that sort of on a daily basis since the last day I left hospital 14 years ago. And this is the advice I would give to anybody leaving sort of detox today for the first time you're going out there. So if you have to stay away, you have to steer clear of the company that you've been keeping. You've got to sort of stay away from the pubs and the clubs. And you've got to go to sort of as many meetings as possible, whether they be AA meetings or NA meetings. I was advised, strongly, that I had to go to AA meetings, and from I suppose the time of my first detox. But it took me for a long time to get the hang of meetings. And not everybody can get into the hang of meetings straight away. But I was told that, when I was complaining about the meetings, sort of I didn't like a lot of the stuff that I heard there. I didn't go to meetings particularly to hear about how much this one, that one, or the other one drank. The last thing in the world I wanted to hear somebody talking about was, whatever drink they drank. But I was told that if I kept going to AA, that AA would eventually come to me. And I'd say precisely that's what happened. And then sort of the time came when sort of I would look forward, to the evening coming, so I would, to be able to go to a meeting. When I went to a lot of different meetings, I went around the place to different places, and I've found the meetings that suited me. And I met some lovely people in AA, have met great friends, people who've become great friends of mine and are great friends of mine today. And I know that all the people that I have met in AA are truly genuine friends. So my advice to any sort of newcomers today is, to steer clear of their old way of life, and sort of give AA the best shot you can, and you find it will work for you. Well, if it worked for me, I'm sure it will sort of work for you. It's been nice sitting here today, sort of doing this program, and I hope that somewhere along the line that sort of somebody will learn something from it. Sort of a lot of you probably don't realise that this is as important to me as what it is to you, because it's people like you that keep me sober. And when I look around the rooms and when I see people who are in the early stages of recovery, I don't really see them sort of I see myself, because I remember on a daily basis what I was like during my detoxes and the early stages of recovery. Sort of I was a very, very nervous person. I was very afraid. I was scared of going back out there in the outside world, because I'd fallen by the wayside too many times before. But sort of it can be done. And sort of one of the easiest ways to do it is to admit sort of yourselves and to other people around you that you have a problem. Because when I admitted to my friends that I had a problem, I hid it for years from most of the people that I knew, or that knew me as well. And when I admitted that I had a problem, I couldn't believe the amount of help and how supportive my sort of friends and family were. So my advice to you is, when you go back out there, sort of don't expect miracles, but give it the best shot you can, and that's all anybody can sort of expect from you. And I wish each and every one of you the best. And if I had a wish tonight or today, the wish I would give is that each and every one of you would have what I have. I have a lovely life today. You know, sort of I have peace. I have peace of mind, which is more important than anything else. You know, and it can be done. And as I said earlier, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I wish you all well.
Thanks very much, Tom.
My name is Tom and I'm an alcoholic. I've been asked to say why people should go to AA and attend AA. I've been attending AA for many, many years. It was recommended that I go to AA years ago when my drinking was at its worst. And when I started going to meetings first, I couldn't handle the meetings at all. I couldn't understand sort of the idea of them, what people were talking about. People were talking about, you know, sort of their drinking problems, and it suddenly dawned on me that, you know, sort of these people that had a lot of other problems the same as I had, and that all the problems stemmed from the main problem, that was the alcoholism. And I was in hospital 18 years ago, and since I came out of hospital 18 years ago, I haven't had a drink since. And I know that I've only achieved this by going to AA on a regular basis, which I do. There's not a week goes by that I don't get 2 or 3 meetings in. And I know that in going to these meetings, it's helping me, and it's also helping other people, because I share my problems with them and they share their problems with me. There's not a night goes by or a day goes by that I go to a meeting that I don't come home from the meeting feeling better. You always hear stories, you know, sort of things that you might be feeling bad yourself, but you hear other people's problems, and other people's problems that at the time were worse than yours. And we share our problems with each other, and we share our strength and hope with each other. And it's by doing this that, you know, sort of we overcome the compulsion to drink. I know that even though it's 18 years ago since I've had my last drink, I know that if I were to stop going to AA, then that the chances are that I would pick up a drink again, because I know that I can't do it on my own. I know that it's, you know, it's got to be a common effort, and I wouldn't risk not going to AA. And the fact is that I love going to AA today. I love the meetings, and I love to see people who, like myself, who've, you know, sort of become successful, and you sort of have beaten the illness to some degree. And I'm not very good at doing these interviews, but I would recommend AA highly to anybody, and I hope that it would do the same for you as what it has done for me. It's given me back my life. You know, I've had no life for the years I was drinking. Not alone had I no life myself, but I destroyed my family. I destroyed my sister's lives. I destroyed my mother's life. And but today, you know, I have the sort of the support of my sisters, and I've got all this back with the help of AA.
Prison wall, I heard a young girl calling, Michael, they have taken you away, for you stole Trevelyan's corn, so the young might see the morn. Now a prison ship lies waiting in the bay. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young man nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they cut me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. She watched the last star fallen as the prison ship sailed out against the sky. For she lived in hope and prayed for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. Low lie the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry.